On the 23rd of January 2014, the morning tide rolled in slow and heavy, pushing fragments of seaweed and driftwood toward the shore. A fisherman from the eastern docks spotted what looked like a jacket floating among the foam. He thought little of it at first, until the shape turned, catching the dim light. It was a body. A teenage boy, face pale from the cold, his school uniform torn, his wristwatch still ticking faintly. Within minutes, police tapes surrounded the shore. The scene was silent, except for the low hum of radios and the shouts of the Coast Guard officers calling for backup. The name written inside the water-damaged school bag found nearby confirmed the worst fears of a family that had been searching for over a week. Evan Harper, age 16, missing since January 16, 2014. January 16, 2014. Evan and Ella Harper were twins, inseparable, yet entirely different. Evan was quiet, methodical, and responsible, often acting like the older one. Ella, on the other hand, was restless, curious, and bold. Together, they shared a small attic room overlooking the sea. That Thursday morning was gray and cold. Their mother, Claire Harper, was in the kitchen packing lunch while their stepfather, Michael Trent, loaded tools into his van. He worked long hours as a deckhand for a local cargo boat, the Marlin. The twins left home at 7:42 a.m., walking down the narrow road that led to Windmere High School. Neighbors later said they waved, though Ella wasn't as cheerful as she used to be. It was supposed to be a normal day. It wasn't. Their stepdad was supposed to pick them up from school, but didn't due to some issues that came up at work, so he called their mother and told her he couldn't meet up if she could go pick them up. But when Claire arrived to pick them up, the school gate was almost empty. No one had seen them since lunch. Their teachers confirmed both had attended classes until noon, and then disappeared during break. Security footage showed the twins leaving through the back gate at 12:47 p.m. Evan had his school bag slung over one shoulder. Ella carried hers in her hand. The direction they took led not toward home, but toward the town center. The missing persons report was filed by Claire Harper at 5:55 p.m. in the Windmere police station on that same day. She told officers that the twins had never stayed out late before. Her voice trembled when she mentioned that her husband, Michael, and her brother, Simon, worked on the same boat and had both been out on sea until late afternoon. Detective Harold Monroe, head of the investigation, ordered immediate searches around the school, the park, and nearby roads. By nightfall, the whole town knew. The Harper twins were missing. On January 17, 2014, 10:18 a.m. at Windmere High School, officers interviewed students and staff. 2 classmates reported seeing Ella and Evan arguing behind the school cafeteria before leaving. One girl mentioned that Ella had been spending time with Tommy Gray, an 18-year-old from the neighborhood known for his learning difficulties. Tommy had a reputation. People often mocked him for his slow speech and odd behavior. And 2 days before the twins went missing, he was seen fighting with Evans. When asked, he admitted he'd spoken with Ella that day. "She was nice to me," he said, but claimed they only talked about what happened between him and twin brother, that she only came to apologize on his behalf since Evans was at fault. Detectives noted it, but didn't consider him a threat. Not yet. On January 18th, 3:04 p.m., attention soon turned to Michael Trent and Simon Harper. Both men had been working aboard the Marlin during the day, but inconsistencies appeared in their accounts of the afternoon. A crewmate said they docked earlier than claimed. Rumors began to spread. Some locals whispered that Michael, who really treated them as his own, was not really at work at the time when they went missing. It turned out that he lied to Claire about his whereabouts at that moment. Others said Simon, their uncle, had a temper and resented his sister's family living under his mother's roof. That evening, Michael was taken in for questioning. He denied any involvement and was released for lack of evidence. On January 19th, tension inside the Harper household was unbearable. Claire's mother, Margaret Shaw, a stern and outspoken woman in her 60s, accused Michael of hiding something. Her outbursts during police visits made her a suspect, briefly, but no evidence tied her to the disappearance. That night, officers searching Ella's room and noticed nothing to help their investigation. On January 20th, 7:36 p.m., CCTV footage collected from Windmere train station showed that at 1:08 p.m. on the day they disappeared, a girl matching Ella's description had purchased 2 train tickets to Bristol. Her face wasn't clearly visible, but the footage captured her school uniform and the legs of a boy who stood away from her. The attendant was questioned, and he confirmed she was there. She came with a boy in a hoodie who stood far apart waiting. But the boy's face he did not see. The boy's shoes, police noted, were distinctive, dark trainers with a red stripe along the sole. 2 days later, investigators searching Simon Harper's small room at his mother's house found an identical pair of shoes and a bundle of notes matching the serial numbers of those used for the train tickets. Simon was arrested. Simon denied everything. He said the money was from an odd job at the docks, and the shoes had been his for months. But the pressure on the police was immense. 2 children were missing, the town was in panic, and the media had begun to circle. Simon was held for 3 days before being released due to insufficient evidence. By now, the investigation was spiraling. On January 22nd, 6:05 p.m., Michael learned that Tommy Gray, the mentally challenged boy, had again been questioned, and he grew anxious. He told the lead detective that he believed Tommy knew more than he was saying. That night, police mistakenly let slip that Tommy had been released. Hours later, Michael followed Tommy, who was on his bicycle, to the edge of town. He claimed he only wanted to talk, but what followed would soon become one of the darkest chapters in the case. Michael, along with Simon and another dock worker, cornered Tommy in a storage shed. After trying to get him talk for hours but got nothing, Michael left to attend to something, leaving Tommy under the care of Simon and his friend. But they beat him until he fell unconscious. When Michael returned and saw what had happened, he rushed the unconscious Tommy to the hospital and dumped him in front of it and zoomed off. After the hospital and CCTV was reviewed, Michael was captured in it. He and the other men were arrested, charged with assault, and later released on bail. The town was divided. Some believed Michael's violence came from grief. Others thought it was guilt. January 23rd, 2014, 6:45 a.m. The tide brought an answer. A fisherman found a body near the shore, tangled in kelp and debris. DNA confirmed it was Evan Harper. Forensics found traces of blood under his fingernails, and among the samples, a partial fingerprint belonging to his sister, Ella. 2 days later, her bag was later found near a coastal alley, containing few clothes and cash, identical to those found in Simon's room. The discovery once again placed suspicion on him. Simon was arrested for the second time. On January 24th, 2:30 p.m., Detective Monroe stood before a wall of photographs, the twins, the suspects, the maps of the bay. Every lead seemed to loop back into the same circle. Michael, Simon, Tommy. But one detail had been overlooked. In another town, a teenage boy, the son of a local councilman, had been skipping classes, acting erratically. His name was Adam Price. No one knew he had been secretly dating Ella Harper. But for now, that detail remained buried.
The investigation entered its 10th day. Evan Harper was confirmed dead, his sister still missing. Windmere Bay, once a quiet seaside town, had turned into a landscape of suspicion and grief. Detective Harold Monroe reviewed the timeline again and again. The school footage, the train station, the inconsistencies, the violence against Tommy Gray. Something didn't fit. Simon Harper, the twins' uncle, remained in custody for questioning. But the evidence against him, the shoes, the cash, seemed coincidental. Forensics couldn't link him directly to Evan's death. Still, the public wanted a culprit, and Simon was the easiest to blame. January 26, 2014, 9 a.m., in the Windmere Community Hospital. Tommy Gray regained full consciousness. Bruised and frightened, he refused to speak at first. Doctors described him as emotionally shaken but coherent. When Detective Monroe visited him, Tommy hesitated. The police had hurt him before by not believing him. He refused to say a word. His mother, who was rightfully angry with the way things are turning, cried out and yelled at the officers, asking them to leave her poor boy alone. They left the room, but not the hospital. Tommy was scared, but determined not to say a word. The police officers never gave up. They continued watching Tommy in the hospital for days. They were ready to wait until Tommy was ready to talk to them. One officer took the initiative to get close to Tommy and his mother, irrespective of her constant aggression. He succeeded in breaking their walls, and somehow the two trusted him, and the police provided them the basic items they needed in the hospital, even footing some hospital bills through this very officer. On one evening, when Tommy saw the detective's tired eyes, he whispered something that changed the direction of the case. He said he knew where Ella Harper was. On January 26, 2014, 3:42 p.m., abandoned park, outskirts of Windmere, that was the location Tommy mentioned. It was an old recreational park, long abandoned after a storm destroyed most of its structures years earlier. Only a few rusted swings and a collapsed shelter remained. Officers surrounded the area, moving quietly. Inside one of the wooden sheds near the overgrown path, they found signs of life: food wrappers, a blanket, and a small pile of clothes. And then, huddled in a corner, weak and trembling, was Ella Harper. At first, it appeared she was kept against her will. After 10 days missing, she was alive. Ella was taken to the station under police supervision. Her mother, Claire, was brought in immediately. For hours, Ella said nothing. She appeared exhausted, disoriented, and terrified. She was subjected to medical examination to first ensure she was doing well. Everything seems to be fine with her. She was then taken to the investigation room for questioning, but she refused to talk. When a counselor was brought into the room, Ella finally began to speak, quietly at first, then in sobs that shook her entire body. Her story was unlike anything the town expected. Ella revealed that on January 16th, she had planned to leave home. Her relationship with her stepfather, Michael, had grown a bit strained. She felt trapped between her mother's constant arguments with him and the family's growing financial hardship. Then she met Adam Price, a boy from a nearby school, who was older, 18, and the son of a prominent councilman. To everyone else, Adam was polite and ambitious, but in private, he was controlling. When Ella discovered she was pregnant, she confided only in Evan. Her brother begged her to tell her mother, but she refused. She said she couldn't bear the shame, not in their small town, not with their financial situation. She wanted out. She wanted to leave the family to start a quiet and peaceful family of her own. Adam promised to take her away. Together, they planned to leave Windmere on January 16th, using the money she'd secretly stolen from her father's boat. But when Evan found out that she was truly going to run away, he followed her to the pub that afternoon. Witnesses had seen them arguing. It was about the plan. Evan refused to let her go. He tried to drag her back toward home when Adam intervened. The argument grew heated. In the struggle, Adam pushed Evan backwards. He stumbled, fell, and struck his head on a rock near the dockside. He didn't move again. Ella panicked. She knelt beside her twin, screaming his name, trying to wake him. There was blood on her hands, and her calls for help went unanswered over the crashing waves. Adam pulled her away, telling her they couldn't call anyone, that it was an accident, but no one would believe them. When she tried to use her phone, he smashed it on the ground. He dragged Evan's body closer to the edge of the dock, hoping the tide would carry him away. The sea swallowed him quietly, as if complicit in their panic. Ella tried to run back home, but he convinced her not to. Ella wept uncontrollably, torn between guilt and fear. Adam insisted they follow through with their escape plan. She hesitated, but eventually agreed, half numb, half terrified. That night, while the search for her had just begun, she hid in the old park. Adam visited her each day, bringing food and supplies, waiting for what he called the right moment to leave. Tommy Gray, the boy everyone suspected, had stumbled upon her once near the park. Instead of turning her in, he helped her. He brought her food, listened to her cry, and promised not to tell anyone. He kept that promise until he was beaten as well. He realized she might never be found alive if he continues to stay quiet. On January 27, 2014, 8:35 a.m., at the Windmere police station. After Ella's confession, a warrant was issued for Adam Price's arrest. When police arrived at his home, his father, a well-known local councilman, tried to intervene, insisting his son had nothing to do with that poor family's tragedy. But Adam was already packing his bag. He tried to run away, but was chased and caught. He was handcuffed and taken. Inside his room, detectives found evidence supporting Ella's story: train tickets, Ella's missing phone, and a hidden journal outlining their plan to elope. On January 28, 2014, 6:20 p.m., Adam Price was charged with manslaughter, obstruction of justice, and concealment of a body. Ella Harper, due to her age and the circumstances, was placed under psychological care instead of prosecution. Michael Trent and Simon Harper were formally cleared of all charges related to the disappearance, though public opinion remained divided. Many still condemned them for the assault on Tommy Gray, which left lasting emotional scars. Tommy himself became a silent hero in the eyes of the town, the boy everyone had mocked, yet the only one who had truly helped. On February 2, 2014, 10 a.m., a small service was held for Evan at the shoreline where he was found. The winter wind carried the scent of salt and grief as the waves broke against the rocks. Ella, under supervision, stood beside her mother, holding a single white rose. She didn't speak. Her eyes were fixed on the horizon, where the sea met the sky, the same sea that had hidden her brother and nearly hidden the truth. In the weeks that followed, the Harper family moved away from Windmere Bay. The house that once echoed with laughter now stood quiet, its windows reflecting only the tide. Detective Monroe closed the file on February 10, 2014, marking it resolved. But for those who lived through it, Windmere Bay would never be the same. Because some tides don't just carry away the lost, they also wash ashore the truth.